We are ranking Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, Bloodborne, Sekiro. I submitted my picks. The people in the Discord and Jeremy just now in the chat, when he felt like it, submitted his picks. We're going to go over those picks, how they work together. What do you call that? An amalgamation, a compromise, a calculation, proclamation, declaration? It's a group ranking, which I really like because I think it encompasses people's different feelings on it. The prominence of the games, whether people are just familiar with them, whether they've played them at all, and how they hold up over time, and kind of the reverence for those things. So we are going to start off with number 6 on the list, as voted by you and I, and it goes a little something like this. Demon Souls. The very first one. This was actually my first Souls game. The guy at the EB Games, the employee, when he sold it to me, he warned me. He's like, oh, this game's really hard, just so you know. And I thought, yeah, alright, whatever. But he was right. It was hard, especially for 2009. This is a year that saw a climax of easy, hand-holding cinematic sequels like Uncharted 2, Modern Warfare 2, Assassin's Creed 2. Now we're all familiar with what Miyazaki does. He drops us in an unfamiliar world, but Demon Souls at the time was truly unfamiliar. Demon Souls said, half your life bar? That's a privilege, not a right, and we're going to take it away. It was like the NES Castlevania levels of challenge and obtuse mystery brought into the modern 3D world. I'm really glad that Demon Souls is going to be lovingly remastered and given center stage as the best reason to own a PS5. That's going to be really exciting for the 8 people that actually own a PS5. Doesn't seem crazy that everything people say about Dark Souls being so important is hardly ever said about Demon Souls. Demon Souls is like the struggling black musicians who invented rock and roll from the misery of slavery. And Dark Souls is Elvis. Dark Souls 1. Repackaging the formula to be slicker and more mainstream, leaving the original to rot in obscurity. And will the remaster change what people look back years from now? I hope so. Rudy said, felt that Demon Souls had more variety, but some bland areas near the end. Some clunkier combat, and poorly explained mechanic of world tendency. Prince. Wait a second. That's about the wrong one. What did Prince have to say about this? Here we go. Prince said Demon Souls had the best boss variety. The bosses were more like puzzles than purely combat tests. You could find clues in their design, in their name, or the environment. What else do we have to say about this? Jeremy B can't wait to have a PS5 in 2022. The Uncharted games, Leonard says, are actually pretty challenging in the harder difficulties. Well, I was going to say, Leonard, well, you probably suck at video games. That's why you play Kingdom Hearts and movie games. But you did beat all the Dark Souls and Bloodborne and Sekiro. So, I can't say you suck. And then play the remake. Half your life bar, that is a privilege. Not a right. I could not get through Demon Souls, so I guess I suck at video games. Oh, you also beat Neo, too. I guess we could have made a case to talk about that one on the list. Anyways, Demon Souls at the bottom because I think just a lot of people have not played it. Maybe if we did this list near the end of the PS5 lifespan, people will go back and realize, holy shit, Demon Souls did it all. That everything Dark Souls gets credit for, Demon Souls did. And it's not like Dark Souls 1 was this really smooth, refined version of it. It was still super clunky. I think it was just a slightly more forgiving. All right. Thank you, Demon Souls, for being our last place one. Let's move on to 5th place, as voted by you and I. Dark Souls 2. It is a video game indeed. It's a Dark Souls game without the soul. Miyazaki was off making Bloodborne. He left the Souls sequel in different hands. The team started by focusing on the visuals, trying to have a huge upgrade in the visual fidelity from Dark Souls 1, and they ran into a wall with the aging hardware at the time. While Souls games have an effective visual style, pure graphical fidelity never takes priority over the game feel. When you go back and look at the Dark Souls games, they're impressive to look at because of the artisticness they bring to it, but it's never like the most resolution, the particle effects, and all that crap. It's more like how Nintendo would do it. I think Dark Souls 2 is a really solid game. It's a good game, but I don't think it has that magic or that soul of what Miyazaki brings. I like Prince's ideas on it. Prince said it has the best fashion in the series. There's a huge variety of clothing styles, and most of the sets can actually be combined in different ways, and it doesn't look like you're just wearing, a purple hat and orange jacket. That actually might look pretty good. This is the only Dark Souls game character creator that Prince could truly create the vision he had for it. Dark Souls 2 is still a freaking great game, says Jeremy. You're actually replaying Dark Souls 2 right now with your friends. It's a mess. A playable mess with nice moments, but a mess nonetheless. I don't know about a mess, unless you're talking about it more in like an artistic sense. I feel like when I played it, it was solid. I really enjoyed actually the combat. It felt really smooth and good. It wasn't like as kind of fast and chaotic as Dark Souls 3, but they just took what worked in Dark Souls 1, smoothed it out, and for the one-on-one duels, I thought it felt really, really good. I think the game kind of didn't have a lot of variety in the enemies, and when you did have to fight more than one person, it could be a bit of a hassle, like most of the Souls games, but I think they were planned a little more around it. It just kind of lacked that polish, but it was still a good game. I enjoyed turning it on and playing it. I enjoyed turning it on. Artistically, quite a bit of the level and the world design feels thrown together. Same goes for the story. At one time we went up an elevator that just went up to the sky and ended up in lava land. Didn't make any sense though. Dark Souls 2 does have soul. The game is much more similar to Demon Souls in terms of item usage and game speed. Yeah, I think it's a little more measured and a bit more deliberate. And I think it made for some fun duels, and it was a good game. It's just the magic wasn't there. And I would think that atmospherically wise, it doesn't match up with the rest of it. But still a kick-ass game. All right. Thank you very much. So, on to the next on our list. Let's have a look here. I had to redo these real quickly. Very, very exciting. All right. Let me make sure that these are in the right spot. In 4th place. Okay. Yeah, it's a definitive 4th place. Let's cue up the music, DJ. Sekiro. Leonot called it an experiment gone incredibly well, but criticized the replayability because of the lack of different weapons and different loadouts and a lot of the stats. Although I would say that you can still customize your character in a more modern way with the different feats, and it really felt to me like what I put my points into is actually going to change some of the ways I play in the different movements. But this game does want you to play a very specific way. I personally had the most fun with Sekiro. Dark Souls combat thrives on very simple mechanics of consequence. It's a consequence if you dodge too early, if you use up your stamina. It's a consequence if you attack too early. It's all about patience and consequence. But Sekiro forces you to play a game of timing, parrying, and being aggressive. I felt like the boss fights were this back and forth duel, and the momentum really would rise and fall until you finally built up that climactic death blow with the big red mark on the screen. To me, it felt the most like sex. I felt very emotionally connected to the combat experience. But if you don't like that specific kind of parrying, it's going to feel way less accessible than regular Souls and could cause you to have a real terrible time or not be able to complete it at all. But speaking of the fun I had with it, the traversal is empowered with the grappling hooks. You can fly across rooftops, drop down for sneaky death blows. You can run away with unlimited sprint. Playing Sekiro is how my teenage brain felt like when I was playing Tenchu in 1998. I put Sekiro first because I just honestly had the most fun. I was really impressed that they went a different way. They added all these new mechanics, and they really worked well. The layered mechanics, I thought, all contributed to the fight in this really singular manner. It was a big risk, and I think they pulled it off. They completely stepped out of their comfort zone, but not just based on the risk of it. I loved it. I love watching those bars fill up. I love that red dot. I loved being aggressive. I liked the sound of it. It was so visceral. I love the stealth blows. I love the world. It was nice. It was kind of like the equivalent of Metal Gear Solid 3 being more of a fun, nice, campy, cushy game, even though the bosses in this game are ridiculously hard. Whereas the other Dark Souls games are more like a Metal Gear Solid 2 or 4, where it's more difficult to get through, but I don't know, you feel like you've earned something when you go through it. What are you guys saying about it? Sekiro is sex confirmed from Jeremy. The only skill you really need is the Mikiri counter. Everything else is just a gimmick skill. Well, I think you need the Mikiri counter. Yeah, the Mikiri counter you absolutely need, but I think you still need to do a lot of blocks and parries if you want to get their bar up. But you absolutely need the Mikiri counter, and that's a part of the game I'll never forget. It's the first time I was able to do the Mikiri counter. That guy with the spear and that symbol coming up. And the environment all around when you finally get it, and then when you're able to do it consistently, it feels so good to do Mikiri counters, to do parries, to get the death blows. So much of it, it's game feel, I think, is what this game absolutely nails it. It didn't get that many votes, so actually Jeremy's late vote pushed it up the list. It would have been below Dark Souls 2 because 3 people voted for it. Well, that was Sekiro. I also think this cover of Sekiro, the one I have on the screen, is so much better than the one they have for the one at the Maple Leaf. Being a Canadian, I don't find Maple Leafs very intimidating. It just looked so silly to me. It looked like it was the Canadian edition of the game. Come on. Be a little better. Can confirm, did not play it. All right, that leaves us with our top 3. I wonder what they'll be. This is Dark Souls 3, the third. Came out after Bloodborne, is that right? Leonot called this the Dark Souls Greatest Hits album, and liked how it explored entropy, death, and the finality of everything. No matter what you do, the world is still going to end. Prince felt this one had the most restrictive combat, heavily favoring a knight build. Even if you have a 99-point intelligence and faith build, you're still going to do less damage than a regular sword swing, and there are 2 mandatory bosses that put magic users at a severe disadvantage. I really enjoyed Dark Souls 3, and I like that analogy of a greatest hits album with new songs, because it kind of felt like it was going through the motions. It took a lot of the cues of combat from Bloodborne. It just basically mixed Bloodborne's speed with Dark Souls 1 combat. And it felt like a lot of the places you went to felt the same, like, now we're going to reveal a place in this way, and you're going to find this kind of castle, and it felt like there was sort of a Blighttown equivalent. And Prince says you feel like the wind-up speed for the spells doesn't really mesh with the speed of the combat. Yeah, I think Dark Souls 3 is an incredible game. but in terms of its originality, and again, that spark or that soul that I felt like what I felt was lacking in Dark Souls 2, I felt like was lacking in 3. Although 3 is still killer. Still great. And when you're 3 games in, plus Bloodborne, I mean, you are running out of ideas for something that is a simple concept. I mean, Dark Souls is dark fantasy, so there's only so much you can do with that. And, well, I mean, it's dark fantasy, and it relies on a combat system that can't be drastically changed, like they did with Sekiro. But I think in the franchise, I think Miyazaki gave everybody... This is probably the most fan-servicey sequel. Here's all the stuff you liked about the franchise. Faster, it's better, it's smoother. You could probably... I guess the argument comes down, would you recommend somebody just start with Dark Souls 3 or play them all in order? I would say start with the first one. Or even go back to Dark Souls 1 after. But I think Dark Souls 3 is kind of like... It'd be like watching the newer Star Wars movies and not understanding in the first one all the things they're referencing to. You're sort of... Or like playing Metal Gear Solid 4 without playing Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3. A great game. And our number 3. Thank you, Dark Souls 3 music. At number 2. Wow, I haven't screwed this up. All right. This number 2 was only 1 point ahead of Dark Souls 3. Real close battle. They were all quite close. The classic. This was actually already in this order before Jeremy did his last minute votes, but Jeremy's votes did mess around on some of the games in the lower order. Rudy, he thought that this game expanded the level design philosophy of Eco, and he felt like it was a realized world. Nothing was there without purpose. Leonot called it a modern classic, but not as polished as the sequels, and a rushed second act leading to an underwhelming finale. I played this game for the first time 7 years after its release with a stream chat, and it was fascinating. 7 years of the legend, the memories, the hype. But it actually struck me how often people in the chat would say, oh, this part's kind of bad. It gets better. Don't worry. Once you get out of here, It was a lot of that. And I thought, this game can be a bit rough. It's a bit clunky, can be kind of slow. But once you get into the rhythm of it, of what the game wants you to do, it works really well. The game still has a magic. It still creates endless moments and memories. It's still worth playing and celebrating. The intro sequence I vividly remember. Now, okay, he'll be the test. I'm going to say a memory, and you tell me if it's actually from this game. Is this the game that has Quelaag, my spider wife? And is this the one where you go way down into the depths and there's a bunch of fire and there's some like horribly difficult bosses? And this is where you go to the Undead Burg and Blight Town, and when you fight the Taurus Demon and you can jump down on his head and you're fighting on that castle wall. And I believe there's a dragon across like a castle walkway, and you go below it and you walk through. Yeah, very memorable game. And you totally forgive it for being kind of clunky. It also came up with the amazing Estus Flask system, which I love so much more. The dragons in Dark Souls 3. Oh, sucker! There we go. The Estus Flask system I love way more than consumables, because you... What am I doing with my controller? Am I telling people I'm playing on PS4? I'm annoying. The Estus Flask system I loved because the developer could finely tune the difficulty, I think. And you didn't have to worry about grinding. You just filled up at the fire, and you knew that from this fireplace to the next one, it would take 5 Estus Flasks, or however many you've upgraded. It would take that many to get there. That was the one bummer I had about Bloodborne, would be grinding for blood vials. And the pace of it, I think, got a little bit screwed up because of that. When you just wanted to retry against a boss and you had to go find, 20 or more blood vials. That was only one part of the game of Bloodborne where that happened, where it felt like it wasn't easy to stockpile them big time. Dark Souls 1, still worth playing. Play it on your Switch. Oh, this is the one that has that creature that comes down and talks to you in this graveyard. And you go inside its mouth. A fantastic game. A real RPG. The realization of Castlevania. Well, actually, Demon's Souls did that. So, I guess you can guess that our number 1 game, the most memorable moment in Dark Souls for you, is when Anor Londo turns dark. Oh, that's such a nice... That's like the Zelda trope of, here's the world as you know it, and then it changes. Oh my god, the Elden Ring is going to be so good. It's Neo DLC. Bloodborne is our number 1. Lenot says, Lovecraft meets Miyazaki's slow and mysterious storytelling. There are still theories and mysteries about this game 5 years after release. Prince recommends fighting bosses to your favorite song. You can use the speed and rhythm of the combat to synchronize, like he did when he defeated Ludwig, to the beat of Meghan Trainor's Woman Up, beating the song right as the song ended. Beating the boss right as the song ended. I thought that adding horror perfectly magnified the Dark Souls formula of already scary combat and bosses and creepy, mysterious worlds. When I played Bloodborne, it was like this. Sort of in disgust, fear, shock, but wonder. Wanting to keep creeping ahead, but also worried that at any moment something was going to jump out and scare the shit out of me. I couldn't beat it the first time the game beat me down. I was able to beat it with the help of the chat. It's fast, it's aggressive, it's simpler than Dark Souls. You can get through the whole game of Bloodborne and only know light attack and dodge. But if you want to, you can get really good with parrying. If you want to, you can get good with magic. If you want to, you can go like me and you can read all about the different combos and actually get a lot more damage out of the combos. But the combo system is not rigid. Because of the trick weapons, you can mix up light, heavy, trick, and a combination of those light and heavies. And when you do a trick, it counts as sort of a combo chain move. It's like Rocket League, where it's simple, but you can get very deep with it, and you still feel like you can express yourself through the combat. The game looks beautiful, still looks beautiful. I think it was a great move for them to get out of the dark fantasy realm and into a different place where they could... I think it just fits the aesthetic of what Miyazaki does. Miyazaki wants to terrify you, and he was able to do that even more with Bloodborne. Bloodborne was just an intimidating onslaught of loneliness and horror and fear and things dripping and disgusting animals and sludge. And then you get to the point where you're stronger than them and you can easily run through and cut them all down. But don't spam the sweep attack. Really fun to look at all the architecture as well. Oh my god, this would be a great game to play with a no enemy mode and just walk around and check everything out and just kind of absorb the world without fear of getting murdered. As a Lovecraft fan, I absolutely love Bloodborne's theme, story, and the visual design. How about when you feel like you're just figuring out the game and then all of a sudden that great big black creature starts crawling all around. You think the world just got a lot different. The bosses, there's a beautiful variety in the bosses. Also, what I was shocked at, playing Bloodborne first and then going back to Dark Souls 1, I thought, oh, you can just go behind the bosses and stab them. Whereas in Bloodborne, they said, no way. Where if you stay in one spot, this boss is going to have an attack to decimate that. And the bosses aren't just going to have 1, 2, 3 attacks. They're going to have like 8 or 9, and they're going to be really fast. There's going to be area effect attacks. You need to operate faster, and you need to learn a lot more on the fly. No more hiding behind a shield. Exactly. You have to dodge, and usually the best dodge is dodging straight into the enemy, which is sort of counterintuitive. You also love the progression, the player going from fighting humanoid enemies to literally killing gods. And a big fat spider at one point. Is that a spider or a crab? I can't remember. The one where you're in that white kind of dream place and all it does is launch things that come down on you. Scariest moment in Bloodborne, in Prince's opinion, is when you get ambushed by that scholar that turns into a fly-like being as you get to Bergenworth. Oh man, the scholars... All those scholars that are like crawling around there and they're sort of like slug people gushing that water on you, but it's a great place to farm, but they can easily kill you. Another farming moment would be those, that alley. You know what I love about this series is that you rarely ever say the place because it has some weird name like Bergenworth, but you go, that place where there's the 2 pigs. There's 2 or 3 giant pigs. And then there are those guys with the hoods, a gang of them. And you can get them to fight each other if you're smart about it. And you can get so many points off, or so many, echoes? That was a really fun place to grind. And one mistake, and a pig would just ram you up against the wall, and that gang would come over and kick your ass. I love when you die, and the enemy's still just doing their attacks. Oh my god! What was the game that had that fight where you fought a lady who had a beautiful sword and everything was on fire? What was that one? See, this is my memory of this stuff all conflating. But I thought that was probably my most memorable fight. That was Bloodborne? Alright, well, I'm happy Bloodborne won. You love that it's implied that the small crawling enemies are the children. Well, if you're watching on YouTube, the Lady Maria fight, that was it. Oh, yes. Dark Souls 3, a beautiful lady had a beautiful scythe on fire, though. I think it was Lady Maria. It was the one that most felt like a dance, and there would be fire in the next phases. When you come back to the dream, the place that's always been safe for you to fight your final fight, that felt good. Alright, if you're watching the YouTube version, it's going to end now. If you're watching the stream, we'll talk a little bit more about this, and then maybe I'll pick a game to play since I have a bit of time. Bye, YouTube.